Hey everyone, John Wartsma here with Life in the Last Days. Today we're going to be looking at two verses of Scripture, and I covered these verses in the last video that I did called Here's When the Rapture is Going to Happen. If you haven't seen it, I'd encourage you to go back to the channel videos and actually watch it, because it's one of these videos that I put a lot of time into, but it really explains, or the beginning part of why a midweek rapture is taught in Scripture. And so I would encourage you to go watch that video. But I had a comment that one of my subscribers had posted about the word scroll that I brought up, that it only appears twice in the King James Bible. And just wanted to give you the background of that, because I think it's important. It's what initially led me to these two verses that are coming together, that actually are a vision of the exact same future events. Isaiah had a vision of these events, and John in the book of Revelation had the same vision, and they were seeing the same things. And so these two verses, Isaiah 34 verse 4 and Revelation 6:14, they both talk about this same vision, the same events that they saw. And both of these verses have the word scroll in them, which what I brought out in the video was, in the last video I said that it only appears two times in the King James Bible. And the story of how I came to that was, I was doing word studies, through the book of Revelation, and I'd see a word and I'd want to go, where else in Scripture does that word appear? So I open up my concordance to the S, the S's, and I'm looking for the word scroll, and I'm thinking, man, there's going to be so many, appearances of the word scroll in the Bible, because that's what they used to use. They didn't have books. They had scrolls. And so all of the Old Testament scriptures for the Hebrews were done on scrolls. And so I was thinking, I'm gonna have to go through 100 or more verses to do this word study. And to my surprise, there was only two verses that had the word scroll in the King James translation. Now, I don't know about any of the other translations, but if you go through your King James Bible, there's only two times in the entire Bible that the word scroll appears. Now, I don't know about you, but at the time, I was just shocked. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Just two references? So I knew the one in Revelation 6:14. It says it right here. And it says, "And the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together." And I knew that, but I was trying to find other places that talked about the scroll. So I looked it up. And this is the only other verse, Isaiah 34 verse 4. And it says, "All the hosts of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll." Now, it is true that the original Hebrew word for scroll is sefer, and it shows up a lot of times in the original Hebrew text. And the original Greek word for scroll is biblion, and it shows up a number of times in the Greek New Testament. But those two words, the Hebrew sefer and the Greek biblion, typically are translated either books or parchments. But only in these two verses, the Hebrew word sefer was translated scroll, and the Greek word biblion was translated scroll. Only in these two verses. If that makes sense. All of the other places where those two Greek and Hebrew words show up, it was translated as like book or books or parchments. And I thought, well, that's interesting, right? The only two times it appears in the English King James Bible, and they're both talking about the heavens being rolled together. Here in Isaiah 34, it says, "The heavens shall be rolled together." And in Revelation 6:14, the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together. And so that's what got me on this path of, is Isaiah 34 actually describing the sixth seal that John saw? And after looking at the words and looking at these verses and comparing them side by side, eventually I became convinced that they had both seen a vision of the same future events. And so the reason that that's so important, okay, is because there's details in Isaiah's vision that help explain something in John's vision. And that is, in John's vision, he saw the stars of heaven, and that's what he called them. But in Isaiah's vision, he called them the hosts of heaven. And the hosts are angels, right? So that means that Isaiah's vision, the wording, informs us that John's stars are actually talking about angels. So there are other places in the book of Revelation where stars represent angels. Under the blowing of the fifth trumpet, it says, I saw a star fall from heaven, and to him was given the key to the bottomless pit. So sometimes stars are just stars, and other times stars are referring to angels. And in Revelation 6:14, under there where it's talking about the sixth seal, when he said the stars of heaven fell, that is talking about angelic angels. And that's how we made the connection between the sixth seal and the war in heaven in Revelation 12. So the timing of the sixth seal is what we were trying to nail down. So there's all kinds of events throughout the book of Revelation, right? And some of the events, some of the seals, some of the trumpets, some of the the bowl judgments, you can't nail down when they happen. You don't know. They're just kind of floating. But there are some events in the book of Revelation that the details around them tell us when they happen. So when you just start nailing down the things that you can nail down, that's what you got to do, and then you can start kind of filling it out from there. And that's what I did in the last video. Again, if you haven't seen it, I'd encourage you to go and watch the video from beginning to end. It starts out a little bit slow because I'm trying to ease my way into the subject of the rapture and when it happens. It is a little bit complex in nature, but I think it's well worth it. So I've had some of my friends that have watched the video have texted me and said, "Wow, that's a lot of information, but I love it." And others, I got a phone call from another guy saying, "I have a bunch of questions now that you opened up this can of scripture. I got a bunch of questions." And we had a good conversation for about 2 hours, and tried to answer as many questions as I could, best of my ability. Look, I don't think that I know everything there is to know. I'm still learning as well. Just like all of you, we're all still learning. We're all on this journey together. And there are just some things we're not going to understand until we get to heaven. But, that's why I put this channel together, just to share with all of you some of the things I've learned and some of the things that I have nailed down. And you guys can be the judge out there. You guys can say, you guys can listen to the teachings that I have, and you can say, I don't believe it, or I do believe it. Maybe John is on to something. Maybe John is off his rocker. You guys can decide, right? I'm just bringing to you the things that I have learned that make sense to me. And, I've put my hand to this for over 30 years. So I wouldn't consider myself a novice when it comes to the things of, Bible prophecy. But by no means do I know everything there is to know. I still feel like there's so much, and I love every opportunity I get to sit down and study the scriptures and to see things. A lot of times I go over things thousands of times. This particular one on Isaiah 34 and Revelation 6 verse 14, this connection, I can tell you over the last 30 years, well, actually the first time I saw that was in 2005. So what is that? The last, almost 20 years, maybe 17 years since I saw it. I have revisited these two scriptures and this comparison thousands of times. just to look at it again, just to see it again, just to see, am I reading something into this? Am I seeing something that's not there? Sometimes I share it with other people and they're like, huh, that is interesting. And then they walk away from it and never give it another thought. I can't do that. I see a connection here. And sometimes over the years, I've wondered, is there really a connection there? Because it just doesn't seem like people are getting it or seeing it like I see it. So when I share it with people, they always initially have the same reaction. But this is a powerful, powerful scriptural connection. And it has an impact on the timing of the rapture, which is why it's so significant. So again, I just encourage you to go watch that video. Here's when the rapture is going to happen. I have another video that I'm working on right now coming out. It's a teaching video on Daniel's 70th week, and how do we know it's 7 years, and how do we know that the 7 years are all together as a consecutive 7-year period of time versus there being a break in between the first 3.5 years and the second 3.5 years. Because there's a lot of teaching out there right now that the first 3.5 years has already been accomplished during the life and ministry of Jesus. And the last 3.5 years is all that, that's all we're waiting for, okay? The last 3.5 years to be completed. I'm going to go into all of that, and I think there's a really easy explanation, and so I'm going to be doing a video to explain that coming up here real soon, so be on the lookout for that. Again, thanks again for all of you who have subscribed and all of you who have liked my videos. Tell your friends to visit the channel, and just to get some more people viewing these teachings and get some more reactions and eyes on this material. I would appreciate that. I think they would as well once they see the teachings. But I appreciate all of you. God bless you. This is John Wertsema with Life in the Last Days, and we'll see you on the next video.